and what that law actually means. I want to go ahead and bring in Joe Thompson, retired NYPD detective, who can kind of break down the very latest on what this all could mean for folks in Florida. Good morning, Joe. I hope you're doing well. What do we know about this new law? What are some of the impacts?
Good morning, Giacomo. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, thanks for bringing up this discussion. This is an important topic that I think we need to cover. The constitutional carry law in Florida begins today. There's a lot of misconceptions about this carry law, but I think we need to kind of hit on today to kind of have the audience understand what exactly this is, because I hear the word open carry quite a bit when it comes to this law, and I want to state that this is not an open carry law. This is not a bill that's going to allow somebody to strap a .357 Magnum in a holster on their hip and go walk around Publix. That is not what this law is. It is a constitutional carry law, or if you will, a permitless carry law. What this basically does is it takes away the authority of the Florida Department of Agriculture to issue a license by doing their own background checks and requiring a safety course, a firearm safety course. Now, basically anybody who meets the certain criteria, which is if you're 21 years old and you still have to meet this criteria in order to be able to carry under this new law, it's not just a free-for-all here. There are criteria. You have to be 21 years old, a U.S. citizen. You can't have any felonies on your record. You cannot be dishonorably discharged from the military. You have to be mentally fit. And there was one other one. You have to be a legal U.S. citizen. So there are criteria for this, but this is basically something new to Florida. It's going to cause some challenges going down the road.
As a former law enforcement officer, also criminal justice expert, what do you expect potential impacts then could be in terms of on the law enforcement agencies statewide there in Florida?
Well, there's going to certainly be some impacts. I mean, you're talking about currently we have about 2.5 million licensed concealed carry permits in the state of Florida. That number of people carrying weapons is going to increase exponentially, in my opinion, and that's going to create a very big challenge for law enforcement. Law enforcement is going to have to adapt to the way they respond to calls, adapt how they deal with people out in the field, because now you're going to have to assume that literally everybody has a weapon on them. It's going to certainly create some havoc here, and it's going to take some adapting to. And I do fear the lack of that firearm safety course is going to be a big problem here. Working in New York, where I was, I mean, I dealt with firearms discharges from law enforcement officers all the time in New York, highly trained law enforcement officers who had accidents all the time. These are people that have gone through expert level classes. Now you're talking about handing a firearm to somebody with no sense of training whatsoever. So you're going to get significant amount of accidents, injuries, and deaths, unfortunately, with the elimination of the firearms class.
And do you think that there is any possibility then that there will be changes to the way that the reciprocal licenses take effect in terms of other states, right? Florida is one that, my understanding is accepted by, more than any other states, other training programs in terms of the CCW, right? If you have the Florida CCW, then typically you can pretty much, bring a firearm, carry concealed in most states. I think it's except some 30 states from Florida. And so then the impact then on Florida's potential CCW actual carriers, because that program remains in effect as well, correct?
Yes, it does. And right now, I believe there's 27 states that actually have the concealed carry license also. I'm not really sure how the other states are going to pivot after this. I mean, I can't predict what's going to happen with the states that are remaining. There are some states that you will never get something like this passed in their legislation. So I guess we'll have to monitor it and see where it goes. But it's going to be a challenge. It certainly is, with people that are going to be basically walking around, going to a gun show, buying a firearm, and then 3 days later, after you still have to wait for the waiting period. And I do want to make that clear, because I've heard this misconception as well. A lot of people are saying, well, there's no more background check and people are just going to hand guns to people. Well, that's not in this law either. Basically, when you go to buy a firearm, they will do a NICS check, which is a national instant criminal background check on you, and then you also have to wait for the 3-day waiting period as well in order to get the firearm given to you. So there is a little bit of protection there, but I guess we'll have to see where this goes.
As more states move towards this constitutional carry type of law, we know Indiana, Ohio, and a number of other states have implemented similar policies. Where do you think then this stands in terms of some of the issues of gun violence that we have, as well as gun violence not just only aimed at police, but also aimed at members of the general public?
So I believe that the mentality of this bill, I mean, this bill wasn't created with malice. I believe that this bill also had some thoughts in it of, more guns equals less crime. So as a deterrent factor, so to speak. So, before someone goes and robs somebody or carjacks them or assaults them, they may think twice, because now that person may most likely have a firearm on them to protect themselves. So I think that's a big part of what the concept of this bill was, besides, the Second Amendment and all. But I think that's going to be a big factor in it, but it may not always be effective, obviously.
All right, Joe Thompson, former NYPD detective, joining the show today. Anything I haven't asked you, Joe, about this new law taking effect in Florida today?
No, but I do want to reiterate one thing. So everybody here in Florida that decides to utilize this law, which, it's your right to do so, I strongly, strongly recommend that you find a firearms class and get up on gun safety as much as you can, because that is going to be paramount in this. I mean, it's not, we don't want the wild, wild west out here or anywhere. We want people to carry guns safely and to know about the guns and to be able to operate them safely, because too many accidents do happen. I've seen it firsthand. We want everybody to be able to carry, but we want them to carry safely. So that's what I would recommend.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, Joe, here on the show at 10:23 on the East Coast, 7:23 over on the West Coast. We appreciate it, Joe.
Thanks, Giacomo. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You as well.